Now we're going to talk about the villain. How good of a villain is Steppenwolf, and how do you rate him against other villains in the DCEU, the MCU, and the Marvel, the Fox Marvel Interactive?
He's weak. He's not a great villain.
I think his story is cool. Story of banishment, a story of pride,
Yeah.
a story of being good enough, a story of reclaiming your glory.
Yeah.
That's stuff that we get hints of, and then we inject into the character.
Right.
It's like the scene where we get his history, and even the scene where he attacks the Amazons. I remember being really encouraged. I'm like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah, because
After that,
whoa, there's so
just
much.
nothing.
There's so much there.
And the whole time during the movie, I was okay with it because I was assuming he was just a stepping stone to Darkseid.
Yeah.
And we were going to get Darkseid in the end, but we didn't.
If you go read Umberto, is that the name?
Yeah, Umberto Gonzalez.
Yeah. One of his articles details what the movie that Zack Snyder was trying to make would have looked like. One of the things that he starts to describe is the way that Steppenwolf interacts with Darkseid and the reason he's serving Darkseid, and it being a form of having to do it for Darkseid so he can achieve freedom, like almost like he's a slave of Darkseid.
Okay.
Man, that plot sounded awesome from a villain standpoint. I think you're in big trouble anytime you say this is a villain, he just takes over worlds and makes them bad. It's like, okay, why does he do that? A good villain is not created from an all-consuming desire to do evil for no good reason. There should be some sort of reason behind it. There should be some sort of hurt that has happened. There should be some sort of reason the world doesn't work the way that it should, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that's my biggest complaint about Steppenwolf.
Part of the question is comparing him to other villains in Marvel and stuff like that. And the reason I put that in there is because I don't think he's the worst. I mean, we have Yellow Jacket in Ant-Man. We have Malekith from Whiplash.
Malekith. Because see,
I would dare say Hela.
Hela's kind of in that Steppenwolf where it's like we have the story threads.
Yep.
So now I'm technically adding more on Hela than was given to me.
Conceptually, it's great, but in execution, not as good. And I will say, even in DC, he's not the bottom of the barrel because we still have the Enchantress from Suicide Squad.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Here's my take on villains. You've either got to have one or two types of villains if you want to have a good conversation about villains. The first kind of villain is somebody that you kind of understand why they're motivated to do what they're doing, but you don't understand their backstory at all, and that's fearful to you, that you can't understand why this person is motivated to do these things. Joker, Darth Vader before we had the prequels, right? That's one villain that will work. The other villain that will work is that not only do you know their backstory, but you put yourself in their position and say, I think I might be that same villain had I experienced those things.
Yeah, he kind of has a point, or she kind of has a point.
Magneto being my all-time favorite.
Yeah,
Magneto.
Most recently, you had Spider-Man: Homecoming. You know, he has a legitimate beef with Tony Stark, and you know, like it's like, hey, you know, I hired these people. You know, I got a family to feed. Yeah. And now y'all are coming in. Y'all just gonna take it away. Am I gonna get paid for this?
And one of my favorites, which is one of your least favorites, is Zemo from Civil War.
Oh yeah.
Another one who is kind of underserved.
Yeah.
Because kind of like Steppenwolf, where it's like, okay, we kind of understand, even though it's kind of weak, we understand sort of why. Yeah. We understand where that trauma can kind of push him kind of crazy.
If you don't handle the villain in one of those two ways, and you're in some kind of strange middle ground where you have to come up with excuses for why they're bad, then that's just not good, right? Like, it's just not good to be in that territory, because now the audience is kind of going to constantly go, I don't really get that at all. But in those other two scenarios, we either don't know enough to be just fearful of them, or we know enough to say, oh yeah, I could see that. I know people that have gone through some things that now do some unhealthy things because of it. And it's not good, but I can see how they got there. Mm-hmm. And as a story, as an audience, I think you want to be in one of those two places. So